All right, welcome into another Around the Campus podcast. Today we have Kevin Reese, and I can't even say Kevin anymore. It's Dr. Kevin Reese is in the studio. How you doing today?
No gimmicks, real certificate.
Real certificate, yeah, there you go. I heard it on one of your other broadcasts that you did, but you said you had your receipts all up on the wall, and I thought that was actually kind of funny.
Yeah,
you know?
That's kind of what they are.
Yeah, in a way. So anyway, congratulations on all the stuff you've been doing since you've kind of moved on from the school back in 1996. And here we are, 6 books later, a broadcasting career later, and here you are now with your 6th book, and this is Peace Over Pain.
Right.
All right, so tell us quickly a little bit about this, but then I want to go back to the beginning.
Sure. Well, Peace Over Pain is a short but powerful book that points people in the right direction on overcoming chronic pain and or chronic illness. And it's based on the 3 corrective macro methods, which are postural therapy, which takes care of the structure of the body, clinical nutrition, which takes care of the fuel going into the body, mindfulness training, which takes care of the onboard computer, which is mind. When all 3 come together, the body heals quickly. So that's what the book is really all about. I'm just making my case that this, like a thesis. Really.
Yeah, well, it's a great title too. Peace over pain. I mean, you got to have peace. You got to have all that to get over your pains.
Yeah, it's a mantra, really.
Yeah, well, it's very cool. So let's go back to the beginning.
Sure.
All right. So in 1996, maybe 1995. Before you even came to the school, what made you think about wanting to come to, at the time, Connecticut School of Broadcasting?
When I was young, I was given a karaoke machine. Before karaoke was a thing, they made like these little boombox karaoke machines. I used it all the time, pretend, a disc jockey or, I just rapping. I mean, I used it for everything. And, when I got deeper into high school, I said, I'd like to be a broadcaster. I didn't know what kind of broadcaster. And I don't remember how I was told about Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I think my mom went to school with Frank Holler.
Okay, yep.
And that might have been how. So I came to an open house. And, met Hank Tenney with his radio voice.
Yeah.
And, it was kind of a thing of, can I do this? Not talent-wise, but age-wise.
Right.
Because I was 16 years old. And Hank let me in the summer before my senior year of high school.
Wow.
So I came in, 16 years old, only driving for a few months. My best driving practice was hopping on 84 and getting off of exit 38, And so, I came in 16 going on 17.
Wow.
Yeah.
16 going on 17. Isn't there a song about that from Sound of Music or something
Maybe.
like that?
I wonder if I'm the youngest ever. I don't know if I am. You'd have to
Well,
go through.
I think at that time we were accepting high school students. It was something that could be done at that time. We actually had special Saturday classes, I think. But it was shortly after that the state kind of changed things. And you had to be a high school graduate. So you kind of lucked out in the way that you were able to come in because, for you went on from the school and even at a very young age had a huge position in broadcast. So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I also want to say real quick that Jay Raven was in my class.
Oh, wow. Jay Raven.
And he's been on the radio for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Ever since. He's on 99 now. So he went from Radio 104, or no, not Radio 104, 106.9 CCC. He was the nighttime guy there.
Yep.
Went up to Boston to WAAF, then came back to CCC, and now he's at Star 99.
But not only were we in the same class, but we used to practice together.
Yeah.
And
he actually wanted to originally, I think, be more into the hip-hop format than he wanted to be in rock format.
He was an actual mixer, a DJ.
Oh, really?
I remember, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was probably 3 or 4 years old. He was in his early 20s.
Yeah.
And I was this 16, 17-year-old kid.
Right.
And we would practice. We would take out studio time together.
Yeah.
And looking back all these years, it's kind of cool that, the two guys that went pretty far were practicing together in the same class.
Right.
It's like the stars were lined up type thing. It's a cool
well,
little tidbit.
And I will say that is one of the big keys to the success of anybody who wants to come, to the school is practice. I mean, I can't preach that enough, is to come in for studio time. The more practice you can get, just the better off you're going to be. So, I mean, how much studio time did you do?
A lot. A lot. I still have the cassette tapes.
There were some people that used to, I mean, if they could set up a cot, they would have set up a cot and just lived in the studio,
That's
you
right.
know? And again, I have a deep appreciation for folks that put in the time. Now, I understand life happens. There's work that needs to be done to help to pay the bills and things like that. But at the end of the day, you do need to come in. You need to practice your craft. So if you're out shooting video, shoot more video. If you want to edit, do more editing. The more you can do, the better off you're going to be.
Yep.
And about this business, it's never a time when you can actually say you're going to be the best you're going to be, because there's always growth. There's always room for improvement. I think that's one of the most fascinating things about the business.
I didn't peak in my radio career until probably my late 20s.
Right.
So you put that in perspective.
Right.
But going back, it's like that with anything, really, because in the health field, I get clients, they want the magic pill.
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
Right.
You got to put effort in every day with your diet and your therapy. So it's the same thing with broadcasting, health, or great actor. It just takes work. But what happened with me is I got an internship. Ironically, 10 Executive Drive.
Right. A hop, skip, and a leap away.
Right. And that was my job, senior year of high school. I would go to school. I would go to high school. And, they let seniors out a little early.
Right.
I'd hop in my 1984 doo-doo brown Audi. That was my first car.
Yeah.
And I would drive to Farmington to 10 Executive Drive. And I was an intern.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And then when I graduated high school, my guidance counselor convinced me to go to State University.
Right.
He's like, radio's tough. Are you sure? Go get your bachelor's. And I was like, all right, I'll do that. But he directed me very nicely. He's like, get on that radio station as soon as you get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was a good opportunity to learn television, because at the time, CSB wasn't digital yet. Things weren't digital yet.
Right. Yep.
We were still splicing to edit. So I went to Eastern, and program director looked at my resume. I brought him a resume.
Yeah.
Who does that, right? I brought him a resume, and he saw CSB and that internship.
Yeah.
And he goes, when do you want to start? Immediately.
Right.
And so I got Thursday night slot at 11 p.m., which is a top slot for hip hop.
Right.
And so I had this little radio show called Hip Hop Heaven. And I don't know, the only people listening, I think, were people in jail. Because the campus students don't really listen. Thursday, they go party.
Yeah.
I took it so serious. I mean, when my roommates were partying and my friends were partying, I was walking to the campus radio station with a backpack, all my CDs.
Yeah.
I was so excited because hip hop was so hot at the time.
Right.
Tupac and Biggie had just died. Jay-Z was just becoming huge. DMX was huge. Big Pun. This was a huge time for hip hop, the late 90s. And I was breaking all these records, and I was getting practice. I took it very serious.
What were the call letters of that station?
WECS.
ESU.
It was 90.1 WECS.
ECS. All right.
Yep. And then
I think back in the day, in my day of hip hop, it was ESU, because they had the craziest mix shows, you know, because I used to taken some of Connecticut's mix shows and the ones that were happening in New York, DJ Red Alert and
you're
Kiss
you're
and
the Run
BLS.
DMC days. You're the Run DMC.
Oh, no. I'm even before that. I'm back to Cool Herc and, the the mid-'70s when Africa Bambaataa started to really kind of change what was happening in New York. I mean, I think Run DMC was about, 80 somewhere in there.
Yeah, Beastie Boys,
Yeah, Beastie Boys, all that stuff. But yeah, so cool. You're on the station there in the late 90s.
And then I went and I got a television show.
Yep.
And started learning TV, and I became obsessed with video editing. I became a video editor, essentially. That helped my broadcasting career, fast forwarding. But so I graduated college, and I had all this television experience. I had a lot of radio experience. That show.
Yeah.
And then something interesting. It was May. Oh, I'm skipping something. The summer before my senior year of college, I got an internship at MTV. So I
never even knew that part.
I lived 4 days a week in Manhattan. 20 years old, going on 21. It was like CSB all over again, but Manhattan, 1515 Broadway. I was the worst intern. I was the worst because my ego was so big because I had a radio show, TV show, and I would sit there in the studio and I'd look out the window and I'd see people in line for TRL.
Yep. Oh, and Total Request Live. I remember.
And
that.
I was looking at Carson Davis. I'm going to take your job.
Yeah.
That's where my mind was at 20, 21 years old.
Yeah.
And then I would take my MTV badge and I'd go to the bar. As soon as I turned 21, I'd go to the bars with my MTV badge.
Yeah.
And I think I got one girl off it. But, that's where I was at 21 years old. So then I graduate college. Interesting thing happened. Same radio station an executive drive. Flipped. Hip-hop station. 93.6.
Yeah.
And it was like, the phones were ringing. Everyone's calling. Oh my gosh, did you hear what happened? Because when you grow up in hip-hop, the big thing is Hot 97 in New York.
Right.
Now all of a sudden we have Hot 93.7 in Hartford. What's happening here? And I went right back to CSB, and I met with Renee, who was the director at the time.
Right. Yep.
Renee didn't. What's her last name?
Denario Falcone was back in the day.
And she knew. And I said, "Look at my resume. Is this not perfect?" He's like, "I'm gonna get you an interview." So she pulled some strings. Called. I don't know who she called. I'm assuming Steve Salhaney. And I got an interview right away.
Mm-hmm.
So I walk into Victor Starr's office. Shout out to Victor Starr, who was the program director. He looked at my resume. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, internship, 4 years at college radio, college TV show. And he looked at me and he said, "What makes you think that you can be a figure on this radio station?" I said, "Because I was at Eastern. Everyone on campus knew who K-Dub was, and I will bring that here. You're hired." And I became the first part-time jock on Hot 93.7. I was 21 years old. That is stupid young to be on the radio. That's like some Justin Bieber stuff for radio, right? And I walked into that station, man, and the first year was it was a roller coaster because my ego just kept getting smashed because I thought I was so good. And Victor Starr just brutalized me.
Mm-hmm.
He brought me into air check meetings. Like, "Well, why'd you say that? Why'd you say that?" That a good jock can get it done in 10 seconds. Like, 10 seconds? I was like, I need 10 minutes. I want to talk.
Right.
Podcasting, this long form talk radio wasn't a thing back then. It was, can you get it done in 10 seconds? He said the best talk break you can give is Hot 93.7, blazing 18 jams in a row. Here's Jay-Z.
Bang.
I'm like, I don't want to say that. And then I was crazy. And I was coming in like I was hosting a club. Gotta pull you back. You're jumping through people's speakers. And then I took that and that moniker at jumping through your speakers. And I was just full of so much energy. And then I was on Saturday. They had me doing Friday nights, Saturday nights, and Sunday morning. So I slept at the station Saturday nights, got up Sunday mornings. The first year was brutal.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely brutal. But the recognition was incredible. Within the first month being on the radio, I would get text messaging just came out. It just came out. I would get text messages from people I went to college with. Can't believe it. Like, I'm sorry for making fun of you, for not going to the parties. And I apologize. Like,
Yeah.
people were just, I can't believe you're on the radio. Like,
Well, it's all that work ethic.
All that work ethic. And then the first 2 years were just brutal. And I just did what I could. I pressed up my own business card.
Yeah.
I went to the mall. I went to Buckland Hills Mall, and I would walk up to people. I'm K-Dub. I'm K-Dub. And then, because I always want to be different, I noticed that my peers, my colleagues, they all had 2-syllable names, right? And I thought they were kind of silly. Like, and no offense to my friends over there. Big Reg, Big Man, DJ Buck. It was all blah to me. So I changed my name to K-Dub-assist running this.
I remember that, yeah.
And my program director calls me into the office. What are you doing? He's like, it sounds like a disease. And I'm like, but they're rhymes. Rhymes? That's why you chose it? I said, yeah. It's going to work because it's a rhyme. The way you deliver it is K-Dub-assist running this. And then, so we made a compromise. He said, don't use it when you're doing regular rotation. Use it when you're doing the mix show. And I did. When I started doing club gigs and stuff like that, people would come up to me, K-Dub-assist running this. And they're like, they like to say it.
Right.
Instead of just K-Dub.
Right.
Right? So, many years into radio, there was the club gigs, and it was a fast-paced life. It was like being a rock star.
Yeah.
And I also worked at ESPN for 6 months. And then it was just an interesting time because, Aaliyah died. Aaliyah died. I was on the radio when she died, and I had to announce it. I didn't go to school for this.
Right.
I went to school to be the fun, party guy on the radio, and now I'm announcing a death. Aaliyah was a big name back then.
Oh, yeah.
That would be like Beyonce dying now, knock on wood. But it's a big announcement. And then some weeks later, 9/11 happened.
Right.
And I had to go on the radio and deal with that. And then a few years later, America invaded Iraq. And they made me do the announcement because I just happened to be on the radio. I had to flip the switch so that President George W. doing his press conference on the radio. And I'm like, man, this isn't what I signed up for, but you just go with the flow.
Right.
There's nothing you can do. And so now I'm breaking news. I'm here to break records, not news. And then interviews started happening. I guess that fast forwards to 2004, back to CSB. I met with Renee and I said, I want to be a teacher. And she fit me in gave me my own workshop. There was no space to teach curriculum.
Right.
But she said, let's do a workshop and see how it works. Boy, did it work.
Yeah.
And people were lining up. People were lining up to learn. At the time, we called it urban radio. I nicknamed it boot camp.
Right.
I was brutal. I was brutal on these guys. I was brutal. I was hardcore because I knew how tough it was. Like, you want to be hardcore, nail it in 10 seconds. Can you?
Mm-hmm. So you're giving the advice that you were given.
I was basically Victor Starr teaching.
Right.
And man, but that, I have to say that was even a bigger influence on me than coming to school in 96.
Right.
Because as it turns out, all these years later, my thing is being a teacher.
Right.
Standing in front of a class with a whiteboard, teaching people, whether it's health, broadcasting, whatever. I could, teach how to change a tire,
Right.
So Renee really set me on my path in that way of becoming a teacher. And so I became a teacher, and I started teaching people how to do hip hop radio, and eventually that merged into all radio.
Right.
And I was teaching people.
And then you even had like a little stint as director of the campus too. You came in, you were actually running the show for a while.
For a little bit, yeah. That first it was campus coordinator.
Right.
And that was cool. It was me and Cheatsley. He was director. We really, I have to say, we kind of turned the school around because it was very old curriculum.
Yeah.
It was like 1987 curriculum, and the equipment was old. We were just so ambitious and passionate. Then Joe LaChance, who was the director at Stratford,
right,
he somehow became some regional type guy.
Yeah.
And he oversaw us. So we became like a 3-man team.
Yeah.
With Joe coming in once a week. He was like, he had to maintain the kids,
Yeah.
Me and John were just like, we just wanted to change things and do good by the students. Joe had to manage us.
So now coming back to the school all these years later, what do you think of the layout of the new place right next to your 10 executive, where it's 6 executive drive now?
It's beautiful. Night and day.
Yeah.
It's just night and day from Bird's Eye Road. So yeah, I was campus coordinator, and then John got into more media stuff, and I took his spot as director for, I don't know, maybe 8 months.
Yeah.
And that was cool. But my goal was to have a syndicated radio show. Right. So it was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out type of thing. You could walk into my office as director, and there'd be, On Air Idiot T-shirts, because that was the name of my radio show. On Air Idiots, and there would be, CDs, and I would take meetings. I would take meetings that had nothing to do with CSB in my office. I just leveraged the whole thing as much as I could. Yeah. And because I really wanted a syndicated radio show, that was my goal. Right. And I built this brand called On Air Idiots. We did really well. And when things switched over, became really digital, when YouTube came out, I started putting clips on YouTube before anybody. And it became like our demo. And then YouTube reached out and offered us a deal. And so we started getting paid from YouTube. Now everyone gets paid from YouTube. Back then you had to be invited. Right. And then came the interviews. Because I realized that interviews are the key to the whole thing. Right. So I started hustling. I mean hustling. I'd go down to Toad's place. If somebody was coming to the Civic Center or the XL Center, I hustled to get the interview. I wasn't the guy that was supposed to get the interviews. I was getting interviews over the morning show, over the afternoon show, not because of who I was, because I was out hustling them. So now I had full-time people at the radio station mad at me. Mm-hmm. They're legit mad at me, going into the program director and complaining about me, saying, K-Dub's taking our interviews. And he would have to, okay, I get it, you're out hustling them, but we have to make them happy. They got contracts. Right. I don't have a contract. I'm totally out hustling them. And I'm landing interviews with LL Cool J, Nas,
Wow.
Old Dirty Bastard before he died. 2 weeks before he died, I interviewed Old Dirty Bastard from the Wu-Tang Clan.
Right.
You know, and then when YouTube and the blogs came, then the interviews started going viral. Because blogs started, and this is when All Hip Hop came out. I mean, yeah, allhiphop.com, worldstarhiphop.com, Vlad TV. They started so basically we were becoming syndicated because of the viral capability.
Right.
And one time, so 50 Cent comes to the station, right? I'm the director of CSB, right? I got a job to do. I get a phone call in the morning from my DJ partner, Gotta get to the radio right now. 50's here, just got us an interview. Gotta go to work. I'm like, it's a broadcasting school. They'll understand.
Right.
I call over, and Barbara's at the front desk. Shout out to Barbara. I said, Barb, block off my schedule. I gotta go in. I gotta get this interview, right?
Yeah.
How long are you gonna be? She says, I have no. I go to the radio station with my wait, because he's live on air in the morning show. They set us up in a side room. 50 comes walking. It's not my first time interviewing him. It's like my fifth time interviewing him. First time in person, though. Because, you know, we would go to his mansion for parties.
Right.
Right around the corner.
Yeah.
So we get the interview. 10 minutes long. Good interview. I get him to say some. Because I asked him, I was like, if you could punch anyone in the face, who would? Because he has beef with everyone, right?
Right.
50 Cent has beef with everyone. Still to this day. He's a troll.
Mm-hmm.
So we get the interview. Now what do you do? I go back to my apartment. Now keep in mind, I moved on Main Street. Why? Because I knew stuff like this was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm 5 minutes away from CSB, 2 minutes away from the radio station.
Right.
I'm leveraging what I got. I go back to my apartment and I edit the interview. So that's a whole another hour. Between rendering and putting graphics in, right? Yeah. I shoot the interview out, blast it out, go to CSB, go to my job, 4 hours late, right? It gets picked up by everybody. Millions of views. That afternoon, I get a phone call from my program director. K-Dub, what did you do? Like, what do you mean? What did I do? He's like, it's everywhere. All the interviews that we did are nowhere. Your interview is everywhere because you got it out so fast. We didn't even have time to get it out. I'm like, he's like, it's not even on the website. It's not even on hot937.com, he says. I'm like, what did I do wrong?
Right.
What did I do wrong? All I did, as far as I know, I did my job. But according to them, I didn't. It wasn't good for the station. It was good for me. It wasn't good for the station. So from that point on, all these rules came down that it has to go on hot937.com first. And then all these rules came out. You can't put it on your YouTube page.
Yeah.
And so I screwed the whole game up. I got people mad at me. And so this was my career.
Yeah.
I was constantly getting in trouble because I out-hustled everybody. Mm-hmm. My show was 6 hours a week. I wasn't full-time. 6 hours a week. I made gas money.
Right.
But my goal was to leverage that.
And you did. I mean, the brand that you built was insane.
On Air Idiots was known.
Yeah.
Record labels knew us. I mean, people would call us. People would call us and be like, well, LL Cool J's coming. We want to make sure you guys interview him.
Right.
Because we would have fun with LL Cool J.
Yeah. Hey, he's a fun guy.
And I got everything on video.
Yeah.
And it's still out there. It's still on YouTube. It's all there. And then the weekend of Drake came. Okay. So this kid, he was a kid, is buzzing.
Mm-hmm.
And we hadn't seen an artist buzz since 50 Cent. Nearly 10 years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, oh my gosh, this kid he didn't even have a.
Wow.
So he's at Toad's place. So I did a lot of concerts at Toad. So I had a concert, contacted Toads and said, I come early and see if I can get this interview. Sure, come early. I go early. Never seen anything like it, man. There was a line down the street, around the building, for a guy that doesn't even have a record deal.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the last time he's playing Toads. No doubt about it. So we wait around. Finally, we get backstage. No, the first thing that happened was we were backstage, and these two young ladies, probably early 20s, they come, and they're like, can you let us in to see Drake? Buddy Taylor, who was my partner, he would like help me produce the shows and collect money when I needed to collect money. That happened too. And then they would be like, they offered us something groupie-ish to see Drake.
Yeah.
And we're like, we declined, but but we're like, this kid is gonna be huge.
Right.
He doesn't have a record deal, and you got groupies like that. They don't know who we are. They have no idea who we are. They just wanted to see him. We were the middleman. So we were just like, holy crap, this is gonna be a big interview. We finally get backstage, and program director's there. He beat us to it.
Oh.
So now I'm like, oh no, he might block me.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't. He was like, the hustle's too strong. You got the interview. You
Yeah.
know? He's like, you're here somehow. I don't know how, but you're here. I drove him nuts.
Yeah.
I sit down with Drake. First thing out of my mouth is telling him about the groupies, and he's just like, wow. Did you take the offer? I'm like, no, we didn't take the offer. We get this great 10-minute interview. It goes viral again. This like really put us on the map, the on-air radio. And then my program director brings him in the next night because we had a concert, Civic Center. It was Hot Jam, Jingle Jam, something like that.
Right.
And Nicki Minaj was on the show, and they're friends, Nicki Minaj and Drake.
Yeah.
So DJ Buck finagled it. Stick around today and come, we'll bring you out on stage. So what we did was we leveraged CSB to take over backstage. So I had John Sheetsley, who was the secret weapon. And
Video guy.
He was a multimedia guru.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
knew
yeah.
everything. He was the man when it came to equipment, and he worked at the station too.
Yeah.
So we had just this unbelievable leverage.
Yeah.
And so Sheetsley brought in the cameras, and I brought in the interns.
Mm-hmm.
And first time we did it, we got in trouble. Right? My program director's like, "What are you doing? You can't do this." He's like, you gotta let the other kids play too, basically.
Yeah.
And so I worked out a deal with him. I said, we'll bring it. We'll bring the equipment. We'll set it up in the corner. Had a full setup in the corner
Mm-hmm.
with a stage and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And we get the interview first. And then the rest of the staff gets it too, and we'll edit it. Deal. Done. Because they didn't have a multimedia guru.
Right.
So here I am. Who walks in? Drake.
Yeah.
He recognizes us because it was last night.
Right.
So the interview was that good because we had the dialogue. We had the
Yeah, you already
rapport.
met. Yeah, right.
the
Exactly.
rapport. And so here we are. 2 huge interviews with Drake. 2 nights in a row. Big weekend. And as you know, fast forward, here we are in 2022. He's one of the biggest artists in the world, not just in rap.
Yep.
In the world.
Right.
And so, there's so many stories, but, those are some big ones that let people in on the business and what it's like. And
Well, and I remember those days, especially with CSB, as your career is taking off and everything else, John Sheetsley, there was a lot of CSB at that whole cluster of stations. We were doing, and we had a similar story with Michael Bublé. I actually was there the night that we interviewed him for our program. And it was at Scullers, and there was probably 50 people in the room, and Michael Bublé is performing,
Yeah.
And then we do our interview, and then the next interview is the Today Show. And after the Today Show, he just blows up, so that was the last of. But one of those things with John Sheetsley was when they were doing acoustic cafes over at the station, our students would go down there, shoot camera, shoot, all the events and stuff like that, and edit it. And we became, at the time for your YouTube page, I don't even think social media had really taken off yet, but we were the production team for a lot of what was going on down at 10 Executive, and it was really cool. And we were also doing other stations for CCC. We were doing stuff with Jay Raven, your classmate, so it was kind of cool, how that all kind of worked out,
I think the key to the whole thing is students or comers listening.
Yeah.
You take what you got and you leverage it. You're going to probably step on some toes a little bit. You're going to tick some people off. But it is what it is.
But don't you think that that's also the same in just about anything in life?
Probably, definitely corporate world.
If you want to grow, you're going to get stuck at the French fry machine if you don't, learn how to do the burgers just right.
Sure.
So
I mean, if I had, if we had tickets to a big concert, or even a comedy show, or the WWE, which came to town 2-3 times a year, whatever it was, if they wouldn't give me tickets, I'd just give them away to the person I wanted to give them to.
Right.
On the radio.
Mm-hmm. That's
it's breaking the radio rules, but it's doing what you got to do because I need to hook this person up because I need something from them.
Right.
It's bartering. This is what it's like.
Yeah, and it's growing your brand, and it's building it, and now in your case, you take that left-hand turn from radio, and you get more into health.
Yeah.
Because I think at the time you were probably eating French fries and burgers and everything else in the world.
Absolutely.
In your fast-paced life, and then you take a sharp right-hand turn into health.
Yeah, when I was 28 years old, I had a heart scare.
Mm-hmm.
And I was campus coordinator at the time. I was in radio, hitting my peak in radio. And it was scary. I went down what I call the medical monopoly path and realized that they really don't have answers unless it's an emergency. So that I got to fix this myself.
Yeah.
I did. And I became passionate about it. Went to school to become a health coach while I was on the radio.
Yeah.
And started taking clients while I was on the radio. Some people were weirded out. The people that were local were like, "Aren't you K-Dub from Hot 93.7?" Like, huh?
Yeah.
But people that weren't from here didn't know. They didn't care.
Right.
It's just Kevin. So, Coach Kevin.
Yeah.
And then I started getting great testimonials, started helping people. And I was just like,
now, what
teacher
year?
Thing.
Yeah, what year was that?
We're talking. I think my health journey started in 2010.
2010,
and then 2011 I started taking clients. 2012 started taking clients.
Yeah. And when did you decide to go back to get your PhD?
That was when I was 34.
Wow, 34.
Yeah, and that was all ego.
Yeah.
No, I had it's a cool story. We had this guy named Chris Cabot.
Mm-hmm.
He was an entertainment lawyer, and he became the lawyer for the On Air Idiot show. He was helping us get a syndicated deal.
Mm-hmm.
We became chummy, of course. And when I finally left radio, he was proud of me. He was like, that took courage and blah blah blah, and so we stayed in contact. And he had these clients that did reality TV. And at the time, The Biggest Loser was hot, that show.
Yeah.
He was like, I got these guys that want to do a health show. Like, I think you'd be perfect. Let's set up a Skype. We do a Skype meeting. I don't even know if people still do Skype.
Yeah.
And I hop on this meeting with these two producers. I'm thinking to myself, this is it. my two careers are about to combine. I'm going to have my own show. I'm going to knock this out of the park. They said, Mr. Reese, we like your personality. You don't have a book, not a doctor. I don't know how that's going to draw. That was that. I got off that Skype and I said, okay. The competitive juices kicked in. I said, okay,
Right.
I see what I have to do now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hopped right on Google. Where can I get a degree? And I chose PhD instead of, I could have become a nature.
Yeah.
I chose PhD because I felt I was a teacher and found a school that would accept someone at 34.
Yeah.
Went back to school and I knew it was going to be a 4 or 5 year journey.
And here you are.
And so I got my PhD at 39 years old.
Yep. And so now you've gone through weight loss, you've gone through coaching people. Now you're at Peace Over Pain, which is the book that you just got out right now.
And the clinic.
Yeah.
And
so talk a little bit about that.
Sure. We're just helping people find their way, helping people eliminate their chronic pain and illness because the medical monopoly can't. Just flat out can't.
Right.
I'm not making a false claim at all. They can't. All they can do is manage it with prescription drugs, surgeries, injections. Certainly they can help you if you're in a car wreck or something like that. But when it comes to chronic issues, they have no answer.
Right.
And so people don't know that. And so they get put on what I call the carousel of frustration. Go down this huge rabbit hole and it gets dark. So I come across a lot of people that are in a lot of pain, a lot of darkness. We lead them out of that darkness. Show them that, they can overcome. And chronic illness is the body just saying, hey,
take care of me.
Take care of me. No different than a car.
Right.
If a car could talk, it would give you some symptoms. It would say, hey, take care of me.
It does talk. An engine light comes on.
An engine light. That's right. So our engine lights are skin conditions, gut conditions, bum knees, things like this.
Right.
And so, with 12 years under my belt now, I'm in a position where I can really, really help people. And I can, every Tuesday we go live in our Facebook group, and I'll answer questions for people. And the Facebook group is where we're gathering people. So yeah.
Talk about the Facebook thing first. Where can people find you on Facebook?
The Peace Over Pain Clinic Facebook group is the best place. But of course,
that's also the website, peaceoverpain.com, right?
Peaceoverpain.com.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and do you have link outs there too to some of your other social media?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Instagram's at Dr. Reese and all that. I'm there.
Yeah.
I've been on this social media thing since it came out, since MySpace.
Yeah. Oh, MySpace.
I got in trouble with that too.
Oh, really?
And back in the radio days.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can imagine.
I used to promote MySpace and people were like, what are you doing? You can't do that. Now.
Yeah, it's all they do is promote their Facebook, their I don't know if the 10 executives got TikToks or anything like that, but Instagram and Facebook for sure,
Yeah, I like you said, everything that I've learned from 96 on with all this media stuff helped me do what I do now.
Right.
Helped me in radio. I mean,
well, if you think about it, it's just taking a brand and going in a different direction.
And we talked about this. I mean, you told me a few weeks ago that you have a student who's doing video for like a blind company.
Right.
So media has gone over to everything.
Oh, content, content distribution, content development. There's so many different jobs today with people doing things. I mean, just this past weekend, we had people running the media tents at the Travelers.
Right.
So, who would have thought, back in 96 and before, that's where students would be going. And I think the school has done a pretty good job adapting to some of these new, kind of technologies and things like that. We actually have courses now in social media marketing.
Got to.
We have coding and different levels of coding now that are branching out all the way up to Python. And then we have app development, so we can have people developing apps for phones and stuff like that.
I mean, even look at this podcasting studio. You got the cameras. You got everything. In my day of being on the radio, I would score an interview with Drake as an example. That
Right.
was backstage at Toad's place with my camcorder
Mm-hmm.
and a cheesy mic connected to it.
Yeah.
But that camcorder is getting me video and audio.
Right.
That audio can be ripped out.
You
My
were at the
colleagues-
forefront of radio becoming visual.
Correct.
You know, I mean, you
Correct,
were
yeah.
basically one of the founding fathers of.
I was.
Yeah.
I quite literally was.
And
because,
I celebrate people that recognize that
'cause
so young.
YouTube came out in 2005.
Right.
So I was 6 years deep.
Yep.
No, I was 5 years deep.
Yep.
Well, if you count college. But
And that's what's interesting about radio still is that you can go and try and find 93.7's YouTube page. They didn't have one,
No.
years ago. It was always somebody like yourself that took the initiative to start it,
Right. The trailblazers are the ones that get in trouble.
Right. Yeah. And now everybody's relying on people to know how to do that now. You need to
But
have a social media marketing
I
background.
didn't know video editing,
Mm-hmm.
none of that would have happened
Right.
because I was taking that material home and turning it into so-called magic and then uploading it.
Right.
My colleagues didn't know how.
Right.
They didn't know. No offense to Jenny Boom and Kid Fresh and Nancy Barrow and all of my friends over there.
Yeah.
But, they got in the radio in the 80s and whatnot.
Yeah.
It didn't exist.
Right. And I don't want to mention names, but we had another student go over there and was part of the morning show. And he did so much with social media that at the time, Entercom was sending out email blasts to all their stations saying, hey, follow this kid's,
Yeah,
incentives here because it's working.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do.
that's right.
And most of the people are like, yeah, okay, well, how do you do that?
Right.
And, so it's interesting to see, some of what students are learning today and how that's helping them in radio, television, production, video. You say it, it's everywhere.
Other thing that happened. This is a big one. When DJ Buck became the program director over there,
Yeah.
I approached him about starting a underground segment with local rappers and singers.
Yeah.
And he said yes. And so I had this segment called the Unsigned Showdown. And I played 2 records from local guys. And then people would vote online.
Oh, wow.
It blew up.
Yeah.
What happened was we broke hot937.com. The corporate people in New York called Farmington and was like, what the heck is happening on Saturday nights?
That's funny.
And it was because of that. First of all, obviously the full-timers were upset at me again.
Right.
They're like, what is he doing? But it was because of that. I leveraged it into getting an intern.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, I need an intern. This is too much work.
Right.
He said, okay, you can have one. So I came back to the school and I
Grabbed an intern.
handpicked my own guy who ended up being Carl Koenig, who became Carl the Idiot Intern.
Yeah.
And he was a mini John Sheetsley. He
Yeah.
could do it all. That's
Yeah.
why I picked him. And so I brought him on the radio. Buck wouldn't let him talk, just in the background.
Yeah.
And he would bring us pizza and chicken wings every Saturday night. And he would do the videotaping and he would do the editing and we would make fun of him. And he became known. Callers would call up and be like, hey man, I got Carl the Idiot Intern's back and you guys should stop making fun of him. And we made fun of everything, right?
Yeah.
This is just out of the Howard Stern playbook,
Right.
creating a character out of someone. Baba,
he had
Baba
Gary the
Booey.
Idiot.
Right.
Yeah.
Baba Booey or whoever. And Carl ended up interning for 3 years.
Wow. That's crazy.
3 years.
Yeah.
We broke all the rules. And then Buck finally let him be on.
Yeah.
He became DJ K Squared on the radio.
Yeah.
He literally became part of the staff.
Wow. That's awesome.
He hustled his way in.
Yeah. Well,
And-
that's it. Hustle.
And
Pay your dues.
yeah, and he would tell me, he said, thank you for making me realize my dreams.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to be on the radio, he's not on the radio anymore because he was old.
Yeah.
he got into this in his 30s. It was too much with a family and everything. It's too much. The hustle is crazy.
Yeah.
It's a young man's game.
Yeah.
It really is. Really is. But he realized his dream. He was on the radio. He can say he was on the radio for like 3 years.
Yeah.
If you combined his internship, he was on for like 10. So
that's awesome.
Again, just breaking the rules, hustling. So there you go, guys. Break the rules.
All right. So as we wrap up, first off, you got to check this out. You got to get to the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Peace Over Pain is the group. This is the book, of course. If you want to learn more about Dr. Kevin Reese, you can go to peaceoverpain.com. And just to wrap it all up, somebody says to you, hey, how did you get into the business of broadcast? I'm thinking about going to this place called CSB. What do you say to them?
Go and break some rules.
Yeah.
Go break
some rules. Don't break
rules.
rules here, though.
Yeah. Like, just go, hustle, break some rules. Without the hustle, you're going nowhere.
Yep. And work
hustle.
ethic, practice in the studios.
Yep.
Be here outside of classroom time to work on things.
That's right.
And that's what's going to help you out.
That's right. And hustle. Be prepared to go to another market if you have to. I wasn't willing to. I stayed
Today's
here.
world, though, I got to say, there are people that are going and getting jobs in Oklahoma and other places, but they don't have to leave. They can do it right from here at the school. They can patch into studios anywhere.
One of the things we're doing now with the Peace Over Pain Clinic is tapping into Facebook advertising, and we're trying to get really good at it and driving traffic. Bottom line is this. If you learn social media advertising and you got a good product, you already won.
Yeah.
Because you can drive traffic to that product. If you do it correctly, it takes some study, figure it out. But this is what we call in marketing as a funnel. You can funnel people into whatever it is you do. You make a podcast, you do your own TV show. You technically do not need to go to a radio station or a station. You can make a multi-million-dollar business from your basement in your underwear.
That's very true. Awesome. All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot for stopping by again. Check out the book, Peace Over Pain. Let's see if it's up there correctly. It is. And thank you, Kevin, K-Dub-Assist, running this and being part of the podcast here at CSB.
Thank you.